Hi, in this section, we will work with asynchronous code. In this section, we will see how to use a promise to get asynchronous response, see a new way to handle asynchronous request and response with async await keywords, and finally see how to stream results asynchronously by yielding result. In this first video of this section, we will explore how to use the ECMAScript's promise to get additional words for our game. The highlights of this video shows that we will modify the current game by allowing a long process to get new words and still let the user be able to interact with the game while fetching. We will see how promise in TypeScript work for a successful and a failure scenario. The first modification will be to create a word provider class, which is a class that will have two methods. So one method will return after a delay a list of words from a file, and a second method will create a bigger delay since when developing locally we may not see easily the Ajax delay. So we have a get words and delay. But before going any further, we need to be sure that inside the tsconfig.json file we have the ES 2015 library. This will allow us to use the promise. The delay method is using a timer to call back to another method that will do the Ajax call. This one is very generic and allows to set a delay time as a parameter. This method is returning a promise of void, which means that the value of the response doesn't matter. We just want to get notified after the delay. This is what happens when the timer is over. It will fulfill the promise. Meanwhile, the delay function returns the promise that we expect to be fulfilled. The result is of type promise and will be handled by the other method that will do the Ajax call. The getWords method is one of that execute the Ajax call. We can see that this one called then on the promise return. What it means is that once the timer is triggering, that the promise is fulfilled and that the code inside the then is executed. This is all possible because TypeScript has definition type for ECMAScript's promise. As you can see, the getWords is also returning a promise, but this time the type is of string, which will be the whole text from the files that we're gonna fetch from the Ajax call. The consumer of that method is the main.ts file. We will be able to use the then from the return and do some work to extract each lines, which is gonna be one word per line, and inject them inside the game. So let's move in main.ts and make it happen. We need to have a reference to the provider that we just created. Then we need to invoke the method, which is getWords. Once the reference is added, then we need to invoke the method with a then, that we will have a string in the response. We can see that we just need to pass it to the addWord method that we previously create, and within a few seconds the games will have the new words. However, before starting we need to create the list.txt files that will contain all the words. So I have created this file inside files, words, list.txt. Before moving on to the next video, you may also have noticed that I added a catch after the then. This allows to handle the case of an error from the method invoked. This can be the case if the Ajax call failed, for example. Be aware that if the code inside the then in the main.ts fail, the catch won't handle the exception. You will need to handle the exception in the then or to wrap this one into a new promises to catch it. So if we move into the application, we can see that the game is running with 16 words. If I put a breakpoint right at the then, which is going to be after the delay in the Ajax call, we can see that I have 14 words on the left side. And this is because we just fetch the two new array. If we keep continue, we can see that now we have 16.